Hey, Sassy Stuff. I'm Emma here with Molly, back talking about softball. So, this week, our player of the week is Abby Dusher with Alabama softball. When Alabama needed an offensive spark, Abby Dusher delivered in a big way. She's a key piece in Alabama's explosive offense. She finished just triple shy of the cycle in game 2 against Drake. For those of you who don't know what this is, it means hitting a single, double, triple, and a home run in a single game. It's an extremely rare feat in softball and baseball. She racked up 3 hits, 4 RBIs in that game alone. Now, she's been a steady force in Alabama's lineup. She started 7 games at first base this season, building off an impressive 2024 campaign when she started 46 games. She's consistently delivered in these big moments, whether it's a two-clutch run double against Texas A&M or a multi-hit performance in the SEC tournament against LSU. She's from North Dakota. She's also great in other sports. She earned North Dakota Gatorade Basketball Player of the Year honors before bringing her talents to Tuscaloosa. So because she helped Alabama with this explosive 31 runs in 2 games against Drake, she is our player of the week.
She's a fascinating athlete. Like you just said, she's obviously a basketball player. I believe she played volleyball at one point. She's 6 feet tall, which is quite tall for softball, but it makes her a great first baseman. She's able to catch any ball way above her head. She is also the 2022 PGF All-American, and she's studying business. So she is, I think when you can play multiple sports like this, it really sets you up for a career with business in the future, being able to run so many different things. She's multifaceted. So she's very intriguing and she's super cute. I was looking through her Instagram. She has like some fun posts, and she's just the best. I really enjoyed looking into this girl yesterday because she just, like you said, it doesn't happen very often being able to hit a single, a double, a triple, and a home run in one game. That's crazy. And she's insanely fast when she runs the bases. I don't know if you've watched her run the bases, but it also could be she's 6 feet tall and her stride is just so
so much longer.
But with that being said, Alabama did lose to Virginia Tech this weekend, unfortunately. However, Virginia Tech, these are the games that I'm wanting. Virginia Tech had some grit here. They didn't score a run until the bottom of the 4th inning. So this was a very close game. Lots of grit here for both teams, both of these sets of young women. I mean, amazing. These are the games that I was interested in. I wanted a more interesting, closer game than a run rule. Alabama has now lost to Virginia Tech back-to-back in the last 2 seasons, which is not usual. If you look at their history, they have had some pretty good games against Virginia Tech. So I like watching these 2 teams because they're on the same playing field. The last couple of weeks of softball, we've been talking about how just the games have not been that interesting because they've been run rules or forfeits. And so it's not super fun to watch those games. So now we're getting into a little bit of fun time with outside of our conference. And then I'm sure when conference starts, we're going to have a blast.
And they will get to play Virginia Tech again today. We're filming this before that game so we can see how that shakes out this time. But it was very impressive against Drake, how Alabama really showed up with their offense. They fell just short of breaking multiple program records in that first game. 21 total hits. The record here is 25. 19 runs scored. The record is 21. And 19 RBIs. The record there is 20. So they almost made that one. So they were just on fire. So I'm excited to see if that kind of lit a spark under their offense to see if they can keep the momentum up going into this Virginia Tech game and then going into SEC play.
Yeah, I'm really interested because, we're watching all of these games and they're not playing, in the SEC conference right now. They're playing different teams. Like Tennessee this weekend had an amazing game against a Pac-12 team. They played UCLA. Unfortunately, they did lose. And I think this is kind of where we get some intriguing things happening when you get to start playing teams outside the conference at the beginning of the season. Because like you said, a lot of these teams are going to be able to play these same teams later on in the season. And I feel like this is a really good warm up for the SEC. And I feel like a lot of these teams are going to come back around on the next game and kind of be able to hit back, which is exciting to me. But I loved with UCLA, obviously they lost. but I loved the score. It was 4-3. What an interesting game. I want to watch games like that. It was such a good game watching these girls. I mean, they gave it their all through each inning. They were smart about which pitches they swung on. They were smart about the way they ran their bases. They trusted their coaches whenever they were running the bases. And I think that is so important to be able to watch that in college softball.
Yeah, and I think that Tennessee has a lot to figure out, and this game kind of exposed certain aspects of their team. Tennessee did get off to a perfect start. They jumped to 3-0 lead in the first inning. However, they were unable to build on that momentum, going scoreless the rest of the game. Pickens started strong but struggled in the fifth, and so the head coach Weekly made some changes. Arjetko came in but immediately gave up a game-changing 3-run homer to Wardley. So this kind of raises a question about should Weekly have left Pickens in the game because she was starting so strong and then made a little bit of a mistake? Should she really have made that change? So that's one thing that they have to look at going forward to see, okay, well, who is our most reliable player here? But their defense was very strong in this game. So I think that that solid performance is really going to help them moving forward.
And I think as a coach, it's really hard to kind of determine when is a good time to pull a pitcher off the mound. Obviously, it's quite embarrassing being a pitcher and being taken off because you just kind of, I feel like it sets such a standard of failure in a way, even though it's not necessarily failure. She just was having an off day. But I also think, like you just said, like, was it the right times considering, maybe she just was in a little bit of a lull and needed a little spark or something to get going. And you know what? Maybe that was the reason for the pull. Maybe they pulled her out just because she needed some time. We see this a lot in other sports too, where like sometimes when you start making errors, you can't bounce back and you're making more and more and more errors.
Yeah, you need to take a breath.
Take a breath, maybe sit the bench for a couple minutes, gather yourself, maybe go to the practice mound, and then come back. And so it kind of sucks being a pitcher and being pulled off the mound, but at the end of the day, I think it was what was best for Tennessee at that time. And like you said, I mean, coming out so strong on the offensive side was, I mean, I thought it was signed, sealed, delivered. I was like, there's no way, they're having such a good game. But once again, these are the games I like to watch. They're entertaining, they're fun, and they're exciting.
Yes. I mean, this was a disappointing loss, but it's not a devastating one. Tennessee is still a very dangerous team, but they need to show that they can close out these games against elite opponents like UCLA, but also when you get into SEC play. Well, Molly, Texas did suffer their first loss of the season to Stanford. How did you feel about this?
It was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
They're on the road right now. They're not home. It was their first game of the weekend tournament. Maybe they had some bus slugs going on. I'm upset about it for sure. I think these young women though, and Coach White, I think they have such a good team that I'm not scared that that's going to shake them for the next few games. I feel like and especially, I mean, they didn't. They lost Friday night and they won Saturday, so I don't think it's shaking them. I think they're a team with a lot of courage, boldness, and I love that. I love that they are playing each game kind of like I'm reading a book right now from a favorite producer of mine, but with a touch of the madness. They are just having fun. And I'm enjoying it. I feel like, Coach White probably gave those girls the best pep talk after that loss. And like I said, they were able to come back full swing and win the next day. But I'm quite disappointed, especially to Stanford. Like, at least make it like a really good game. Come on, guys.
I know. In the Stanford loss, the Longhorns collected 11 hits, but they left 9 runners stranded, which was absolutely costly for them. But the good news is they have a championship mentality. They responded to their first loss with an 18-run explosion, proving they can shake off adversity and be dominant. And then they followed it up with a win against Arizona 8-4. So they showcased their resilience this past weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can't leave players stranded on the bases. That's giving away free runs at that point. And so even if there's an RBI involved or whatever needs to happen, that does, it really does add up whenever you're leaving people, especially with bases loaded in there. case. That was rough. But like you said, they have a championship mentality of like, this doesn't shake us. We're going to come back. We're going to come back stronger. We're not going to let this rock our world right now. We're just going to keep going and play like we always play. And so I think Texas being able to do that kind of, and it's their first year in the SEC. So I think it's kind of like setting a tone for who they are as a team, which I think was needed this early on in the season.
Yeah, they're still the team to beat, but this Stanford loss really exposes areas to improve, and you want that. So it's never going to be completely perfect, but if you can build on these little mistakes, then they won't happen as frequently or at all. And then when you get into harder games, when you get into SEC play, you're going to continue to be dominant. So I still think Texas is the number one team to beat, but it was a sad loss, especially with how dominant they have been.
Especially being like, I know it's early in the season, but being undefeated and like being the team to beat, I'm sure that just like hyped Stanford's ego. You know what I'm saying? That makes me so upset. That part makes me upset. The fact that they lost, I'm like, oh, whatever, it sucks. They'll bounce back. But like, that just grinds my gears.
Well, does it grind your gears, everybody? Molly's obviously upset. She's a Longhorn. She has pride with her team. But who are you guys watching? These are the teams that we watched this week. And Abby Dusher is obviously incredible. So let us know what you think in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on all platforms, and we will see you next week.